welcome to the show. Now, the one thing that really bothers me in this world today is the amount of suffering and oppression that happens all over the world, and there are many causes for this. And one of these things that manifest through oppression and through political drama and through economic drama is the amount of refugees that we see. We're all watching the news. We know that around the world, refugees are moving around. People are talking about migrants. We see things happening in Europe. But we need to start asking the questions from a humanitarian point of view. And that's what I want to do today. I want to talk about refugees. So I brought in an expert on that, and that's Nurudean.
Thank you so much.
So I know that you guys approached me some time ago to talk about the plight of refugees, and the world is talking about refugees. Yeah. And the world is looking at this drama unfolding. But my personal take I'm going to talk to you about later on. But refugees, what do we define as refugees, for starters?
Yes, refugees are usually people who move from their original country and come to another country. They could be coming to that country because they are seeking a particular status, because their rights in that particular country where they come from have been violated. For example, it could be political, or it could be economic migrants, where they leave that particular country for economic reasons and they move to another country. So in that case, we have got refugees moving from African countries for a number of reasons, which we shall talk about, and then come to South Africa.
So sorry, just to cut you there, when we look at the word refugees itself, we know that the word refugees is a derivative of the word refuge.
Yes.
So it's somebody that is seeking refuge somewhere else.
Yes.
And I want to go a bit deeper into that aspect of seeking refuge. So from a humanitarian point of view, and I'm going to be bringing up the humanitarian aspect all the time. I know some people are just not going to like that, but it's really about that for me. And that's a story I want to tell. We find a group of people in any country, wherever they are, experiencing hardship, as you say, and they therefore look for a life somewhere else. There's a lot of challenges involved there. There are things that we see that comes along with that. That includes poverty, economic circumstance. Tell us about some of the things we saw on those visuals.
So then a number of people leave countries. For example, in Africa, we should talk about Africa because we are geographically we are in Africa, and South Africa in particular. Like countries like Burundi, we have had elections there, and then after elections there are some chaos, and then many of the refugees we serve by our organization, a big number come from Burundi, so that country is not stable. Then we have a country like Somalia. Somalia has been torn apart for so many years. So we have got those people, they have stronger reasons why they should leave their country. They have been in wars, mothers lose their children, and then they migrate to that country to here. And then we have got a big number of Ethiopian refugees. Economically, the country is not so bad, but politically, whereas it doesn't come so much up in the media, but yeah, they don't have big space. If you are, for example, from an opposition point of view, they don't have a free space. So we have got many migrants from Ethiopia. So they come here. But you also have economic migrants, people who feel that we know that South Africa, north of the border, like many countries, are economically struggling. So whereas they could be politically stable, but some people feel that when they come here, maybe things would be different. So they come with the hope that they can maybe change their lives and support their families, and then they come back they come to this country.
Let's look at the actual point of departure. Certainly there must be an X amount of pressure onto an individual for them to decide that they want to make that move. So that means they must either be experiencing lots of turmoil. I cannot think of anybody that is going to take the place of their birth that they are living in for a long time, that they've built their roots in, that they are used to and accustomed to, and then decide they want to move for no reason. There must be a serious amount of pressure to make such a decision where you actually want to move. Let's go down to the real story. What are people experiencing in general in Africa that makes them want to move to South Africa?
Yes, a number of challenges they face. The big challenges of the people, the community we serve, the refugees with our constituency, political reasons. I've hinted at countries like Burundi, So we have a problem like the president come, and then when they reach into power, then they want to stay there for a long time. So when opposition people who feel that we should have a different space or different president, when they come up, and then the president is usually, in many African countries, the president is so strong, the institutions are still weak. So as a result, there is chaos, which usually after elections there is high tension, and then there is chaos, and people start killing each other. So some people who can manage to leave that country, they usually migrate and come to South Africa, and we have seen people migrating to Europe. There are also, like in Nigeria, we hear of Boko Haram, like in Rwanda. In Rwanda also we have got some people we serve here. They feel that they don't have freedom to talk. So that's the reasons they give us why they came to this country.
So how does refugees come into South Africa? Are they coming through, are they entering the country through legal means at all, or are these through borders? I'm just not too certain about all of that.
Yes, there are a number of channels which that the refugees come into South Africa. Like those who pass on the land, of course, they are border crossing points. Like for example, the border on Zimbabwe border, there are many people, migrants, who use that border to come in here. When they reach there, so they are given forms to fill in, and then if they have some reasons why they are leaving that country, then they fill in those forms, and then they can be given some time, and then they assess those papers. They can be given temporary permits or refugee papers.
Does this fall anywhere under asylum at all?
Come again with your question.
Does this fall under asylum at all? Is that considered as asylum seekers?
Yes, they are considered as asylum seekers first, and then refugees later. So actually, like in the statistics we have, there are over 1 million people who are waiting for their status to be determined. They are asylum seekers. The number of refugees who have been recognized in South Africa is quite small. It's less than 100,000 refugees.
Right, so the refugees that actually have refugee status is just under 100,000, right?
Yes.
But the asylum seeker number, that's the ones that still need to be tunneled and funneled through.
Yes.
That number is much bigger.
Yeah, it's much bigger, and then they face challenges because, like for example, if you are in South Africa, you cannot open a bank account without refugee status. Like surviving on their own, as we shall talk later, it is very hard when you have just a temporary permit of 6 months. And for example, in Western Cape, in Cape Town, where we are talking about, the refugee office, reception office was closed, and then there are some lawyers and NGOs which took Department of Home Affairs to courts of law, but they lost the case. So meaning that if there are people who are here, they have to go to the border or to Durban and then renew their papers. Some of them are economically are stressed, so it is a battle. There are many challenges which they go through when they are here.
Of course, and I think we're going to talk about the daily life of a refugee in South Africa and the daily life of an asylum seeker in South Africa and see how that is going. What I'm very interested in at this point is that you started talking about numbers, and we're looking at numbers in terms of asylum seekers and then refugees. Now, people watching the show, and for our viewers, especially in South Africa and those up Africa, there are thoughts that are probably going through their mind, and some are saying, but how does that become our problem? What are we supposed to do about it? What if all these people come inside here and they use up all our jobs, or they do this, that and the other? What's your answer to such things, to such questions? Because these are the real hard questions that people watching the show are probably asking right now.
Yeah, that is true. The refugees who come here, apart from looking at asylum seekers, apart from looking at them as people who take South African jobs, they have contribution they make in the South African economy. The statistics of South Africa, I think the recent one indicated that there are about 3 million foreigners, because definitely we have got people who have got skills who come here, and then they are employed into the industry, and then they contribute to the tax base. So they make big contributions. Within the refugees who come here, there are those who are skilled. So some of them start their businesses. We know Somali people are very, they start businesses and they're doing well. They come with nothing. We know Ethiopians, we know Pakistan people who are doing well. We know Indian people who are doing well. They start small businesses and then they employ local South Africans. There are some information definitely which goes out there where people say that they are taking our jobs. But there was statistics research which was done recently by University of South Africa. Actually, it showed that people were asked that, do you have any experience of losing a job or your relative losing a job to a foreigner? They didn't have any statistics. So like that information goes out. But
so you're saying that there are actual stats on that?
Yes.
So it's an absolute myth to say that I've not got a job because some person that came into the country took the job that I was supposed to get.
Yeah.
So you're saying that doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist, sure.
So I think to a degree we have covered that aspect, and I know that some people watching the show they're probably thinking, what's up with Faizal? He's saying that this is humanitarian aspect and he's all for it kind of thing. And what about this, that, and the other? But I must be honest with you, Nurudean. My approach, and everybody knows that, he is very humanitarian. And I somehow don't always see boundaries when it comes to helping women, kids, and children with things. It's just part of how we are geared to do that. What concerns me at this point is what tangible structures are in place from a government point of view and from a support point of view to see how do we actually deal with the problems. Because you're mentioning and we're seeing on the video that there are people, they come in and they come without food and they come in without shelter and access to water, sanitation and all those kind of things. What is in place to deal with those kind of things? And then we're going to talk about your organization also.
Okay, that's a good question. Legally, the South African government, for example, for recognized refugees, they are supposed to be given services. For example, access to education. Through recognized refugees, they have access to education. Health services, they have access to them. Then they also get some support. For example, some amount of money if, for example, there is a mother with children. But some of them refugees, they don't know those rights. But those who have approached us, we have given them the right information. But as I already pointed out, the number of asylum seekers is bigger than that number of recognized refugees.
And you're saying that only when you have refugee status, then you have access to certain things, or do you have access to certain benefits if you are an asylum seeker also?
No, you don't have access to government services.
So you've got to get through the system and become a refugee.
Yes, you have to go through the system. The system, to go through the system is not very easy. So at government level, usually like in some other countries, when you go into that country, so there are some clear structures. For example, there could be refugee centers, and then people who come to that country, when they don't know even the language, usually the government support them to incorporate them 100%. into the system. But there is still a lot of work to do to be done as far as that area is concerned. Here, like the law provides the government to establish centers, but the government doesn't take that route. So, like if you are given papers, then you are free to go anywhere. So you can survive on your own, which is not very easy. So you also have cases of people who have come from countries where they don't speak, for example, English, and they have been here, for example, for 5 years. Communicating with the local people is still a challenge. So yeah, there is a still of efforts which needs to be done as far as government is concerned. So that's why the civil societies or any NGOs or NPOs like our organization, that's the gap they're trying to fill in.
Nurudean, thank you. We're going to go on a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your organization and what some of the work we're doing. We're talking about refugees, and like I've mentioned when we started the show, it's a big discussion at this moment. People around the world are talking about refugees and migrants, and we're applying all kinds of thought trains to all of this and how the problem is going to be solved. My take is that the problem is bigger than we think it is, from the point of view that if we cannot settle the world from a political, economic point of view, then we're not going to sort out the refugee aspect, and that's my thoughts. We're going to go on a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Nurudean about his organization and what they're doing to help the problem. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about refugees, and we know that the story is a big story around the world, like I mentioned. People have different viewpoints. Some are saying, what are they doing in my country? Others are saying, you know what, this is a humanitarian aspect, and we need to deal with it. And then I'm thinking that the world has big problems, and that's economic and political problems. And while we have those problems, which is part of being in this world, we are going to have refugees. I'm talking to Nurudean. He hails from an organization that is doing excellent work to try and alleviate some of the challenges that refugees are experiencing in South Africa specifically. Nurudean, welcome back.
Thank you.
The organization, let's talk about the organization. We understand the challenges that's going on. How and what are you guys doing to try and solve some of those problems? Government on any level can only do what they can to a certain degree. They need some intervention and they need some help on the ground to do that. What are you doing?
So the organization is MRASA, Muslim Refugee Association of South Africa. It was started in 2008 after the xenophobia incidences. The purpose was to create a platform for refugees to air out their concerns, but also to solve the challenges which they face, refugees and migrants in South Africa. So we have a number of programs. We have specifically 5 programs. One is education. Another one is advocacy. We talk about during winter warmth. So during winter, we organize winter items to cater for refugees. We said that they face a number of challenges. We have community connection, one of the program whereby we mobilize refugees to go and do a particular project for the local South African community, just to create a link, to build a bond, to make people understand that these people are also part of us. And then we have got a feeding program. This feeding program is usually in the month of Ramadan. So we mobilize food and then we give out the food. So those are specific 5 programs.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that. The one that sort of caught my attention was the advocacy aspect, and just trying to reflect on the advocacy part of what you do as an organization. Things that come to mind for me at this point is the fact that, and just going back to the first half of the show, when you spoke about refugees don't have the knowledge base, or they don't understand when they come into the country that there are certain things that they can tap into, or rather when they come as asylum seekers and change that status into a refugee, they have certain benefits and there are processes involved and there's probably lots of paperwork involved. And I don't know how you guys do it, but there must be some interviews and all these kind of things that happen for you to actually cross that bridge to become a refugee. So does part of your job entail dealing with those aspects, educating them to say, this is the process, this is what you're entitled to, this is what you can do, and this is what you cannot do?
Yeah, that is true. So education is very important. And like you said, that we have many refugees from a country like Burundi. Burundi, they speak French, they don't speak English. So we have a country like Somalia. Somalia also, English, though it was colonized by Britain, but many Somali people, maybe ladies, when they come to this country, so communication is a challenge. So we have English lessons for that one, and then we train them. We work with the human rights organization to communicate to them the procedures of how to get the status here, and also what benefits does it entail, what departments, where are they found, and so on. And then we have also, we talked of advocacy, then because foreigners, when they start businesses, legal businesses, registered businesses which can create tax base and employ local people. So when there are some xenophobia incidences, then their shops are attacked. Also some South African shops are attacked, just like recently we had a case in the city of Swane in Gauteng. South African shops were attacked, but also local foreigners like Pakistani, Somali, Ethiopian shops were attacked. So like some of the reasons which are given, just like we are saying that ZIP are taking our jobs, they are occupying our space. So we create a platform whereby we engage foreign nationals and local South Africans such that they can talk to each other, and South Africans can know the benefits, but also encourage foreign nationals to open up themselves, and local South African can see who they are, such that next time they don't target their shops. So there is that understanding. We involve organizations like the South African Human Rights Commission, which clearly spells out the rights of migrants when they come here, the rights of refugees, which are spelled out in the Refugee Act. And we engage and we tell them that actually, like, if we empower them as far as knowledge is concerned, then we shall be giving out less food parcels, because people will be knowing where to get the things, the benefits which they qualify to get.
I want to take this one step to another side, and that when we think about refugees, we have this mental vivid image in our minds of probably grown men in our minds, but I know that a huge component of asylum seekers and refugees are women and children. And I specifically want to take the discussion briefly to children, because it is a great concern of mine, that children in their developmental stages, and we all wish that for our children, wherever they are in the world, that they have access to education, food, a good night's sleep, so that they can develop their lives. Because children don't deserve to be traveling all the time, to be looking for a place to sleep and something to eat. So that concerns me a bit. What's the status of the kids as they come through all of this? Because we try and handle kids with kid gloves all the time, because we understand that they're developing from a psychological point of view, from a physiological point of view, and all these things can definitely impact on their development as human beings and to have meaningful lives. How does it impact the kids?
Yeah, that is very good. Like children, we notice they are in sensitive stage, but I should say that the program which we have for children, as far as the organization is concerned, is like we provide them scholastic materials, but surely it is not enough. We also provide some guiding and counseling for them, but it is not enough. The only program which we are thinking of, future program, is kind of an educational institution, specifically looking at kids and their interests. But so far the budget has not allowed that. But what is true is that we have got so many mothers. The biggest percentage of the people we provide services are women, are mothers, and children. So like this is a challenge which we have, and it is a challenge. For example, these people, some of them have been here for maybe 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and some of them, like, they are looking at establishing themselves here. And whereas they can get some access to education, but you feel that there are some things, like some special guiding and counseling which they ought to get, but for some reasons related with finance, they don't get it. So it is still a big challenge as far as providing the services to refugee children as far as that area is concerned.
You know, that my take is that whether it's a black child from the middle of Africa or it's a white child that lives in Constantia in Cape Town, they're all the same to me. And they all have the same needs, and they have the same abilities, and they have the same thoughts, and they follow the same developmental patterns, just the circumstances are different. And we need to have people looking at it from that point of view. And therefore my next question is, how does the public assist you in what you're doing? My take is that you can only do what you can with what you have. Beyond that, you cannot go further. But that can become easier if the public can get involved. What do they do to get involved?
Yeah, that's a good question also. The public have been supporting us since the organization started. They give us donation in terms of money, in terms of items. For example, you talked about children. We have got many community members who contribute toys, who contribute scholastic materials, so they usually do that. But also like volunteering to come to do some work. For me, I came to South Africa to study. I studied marine biology at the University of Cape Town, but I only came across this organization when I was reading a community paper about refugees, my father being killed in the war, so I know the pain. So I said that maybe I can render some services, professional services to the organization. That is how I started. So like people have volunteered with the organization. They also come and provide equipment. We talked about skills, so they have provided materials. Our Baraka Bank, for example, it gave us computers. We have got, for example, social cohesion. We have won a fund recently together with Foundation for Human Rights, Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, and European Union to further engage the South African public to build strong bonds and roll back xenophobia, because we had some xenophobia incidences in the recent past which are recurring. So the public, yes, they have been supporting us, but just like Oliver Twist, we still ask for more.
No, of course.
Yes.
That's an interesting one, and I think the twist in all of this is the fact that we need to start twisting our mindsets, the way we think and what we do. Nurudean, thank you for joining us on the show. Your details and your organization's details are on the screen, and we're hoping that the public is going to come out and support what you're doing from a humanitarian point of view.
Thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you. Well, that's Nurudean, and they are doing lots of work with regards to refugees. I think we need to have a mindset shift here, and that is, this is my opinion, and you can take it or leave it, you can throw it in the bin, decide what you want to do with it, but we need to get to a point, as my viewers and as people of this world and world citizens, we need to start understanding that we want to say, when we want to call things, you from America and you from Africa and you from here and there and the other, in the end of the day, the blood that flows in your veins are all the same. And you come there from a creator, and your job is to serve humanity. Your job is not to discern who you want to help and how you can help them. You need to serve humanity, and you have to have a regard for people that says that I'm there to assist anyone with anything if I can. Until next time, goodbye.